Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Thick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Benzinga's PreMarket Prep. Spencer Israel here with Joel Elconin and Dennis Thick on the show today. Of course, we have to talk about the after-hours action as it relates to the latest North Korea missile launch over Japan. And we're going to talk about what the market was doing at the time and what it will do today in response to that. We've also got some earnings still trickling in. Best Buy coming out this morning, Finish Line out as well. And we'll talk about the rally in the flight to safety when things like this happen, rally in gold and things of that nature. We'll also be joined by Nick Shaheen at 8:35. He's our options expert. Joel, what's doing in the SPOOs?
Nice range in the SPOOs. We opened up at 24.34. That was your high tick. Went down to 24.21 and caught a bounce. So we are 12 points off that pre-market low. Yesterday's low, 36.25. I'm going to be looking at for a gap fill, but more of my interest today and over the next few days is the four closes that we had at the 24.42 area. That's my bogey for the rest of the week. As you mentioned, gold and silver firmly in the green. What happened yesterday? You had a breakout above 1,300. Then you get some news overnight, geopolitical news. Gold up 11.70 at 13.27. Crude unchanged. And silver up 23 cents here at 17.68. But for a better account and a breakdown of the trading action, let's bring in Dennis. And Dennis, you called me last night, man, and I did not look at the SPOOs, and you fill us in on the course of events that took place last night.
Yeah, obviously, market was trading flat around 5 o'clock. S&P futures closed at 5:15, but just before the close, Benzinga, we got to give some props to Charles there on the Benzinga Pro because he squawks out, and if you know, you can subscribe to the Benzinga Pro and the squawk box is Charles. He's always just squawking the news for us, and he squawks out that there's a report out of NHK that a missile has been fired from North Korea. NHK is a Japanese national public broadcasting organization. I'm looking, and hearing Charles say that, I'm like, I'm looking at the S&P futures or at the SPY because S&P futures are closed. SPY is trading up about 10 cents at the time from the close. So I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not, or what that is, because I'm not seeing it anywhere else. I'm looking at different news sources as well, and CNBC hasn't said anything about it. But Charles on Benzinga Pro had it, and I was like, I'll sell a little bit of SPY just in case. And then it went down a little bit more. I was like, I'll sell short a little bit more SPY, and then obviously just collapsed. CNBC picks it up, everybody picks it up, but Benzinga Pro and Charles will get 2-3 minutes ahead of CNBC on that one. So props to the Benzinga Pro. I made a little bit of money off you there, Charles. So thank you very much. But obviously, the markets, then go into collapse, and you see, a flight to safety. You see gold take off. You see silver take off. You see TLT take off. You see money coming out of all other stocks all over the place. The only stocks really catching a bid, NOC, the defense stocks, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, RTN. Those are ones obviously you think about if we're going to go to war, that's going to be an issue. But, what are the implications here for today? So that's, what happened last night. The implications for today, I would say, is, this is more, it's kind of like a big, middle finger to the world from North Korea. Is it not, Joel?
Again, before we go into the ramifications of this, do you have your blotter up? Because I'm just curious where you covered the SPYs, because I'm looking at 24.21. Was it something?
Oh, no, I covered way too soon. Scalper blood in me. I covered for like 60 cents. Okay. It was the $2 on the table, but, it fell like I covered like 3 minutes after Charles squawked that. So, and I don't know, with this missile, like it's just in the air. Okay, they launched another missile. So it's hard to say, where this was going. There's not a lot of details at the time, but scalper blood in me, I covered way too fast. But then I started trading, all the stocks. And, I actually had a really good night. It was one of my best nights of the year. Just trading, stocks versus, the index and, there was all kinds of stuff going on. So I made a ton of trades last night. I probably made 100 trades last night.
Wow. Well, I could just look at it. Obviously, I can't really comment on how things are going to change geopolitically, or how the United States is going to respond to this. But we are 4 points from the low of yesterday, which is 36.25. So that's certainly a target on the upside. And then I mentioned at the top of the show, we had 4 closes in the S&Ps, Dennis, within a 2 or 3 point range. And that's pretty unusual for a volatile index. The closes were 41.50, 40.75, 42.5. And then yesterday's was a little bit higher, up at 43.75. So you get 4 closes in the same area. I was ready to pounce, holding that off the open would have been good. We're now below it. I think, and I'll go a little bit longer term call here, we got to get back above all those closes and settle back, let's say 24, 45, 46. Or I think we got some more work to do on the downside. What's interesting is we still didn't take out last week's low at 15.75. So I think I would have been, if I would have been trading, if I would have been short, I probably would have been holding for that level and regretting it, as there's been a big bounce in SPYs and the SPOOs.
And I mean, you can look at this technically, and you can look at anything technically, but it's very important to, think about the macro landscape, the fundamentals. Technicals are one tool in your toolbox, and there's a lot of people who just trade technically, and that's it. I like to do the combination because, let's be honest here. The chart can look like, whatever it wants to look like. If North Korea fires a missile, the S&P futures are going down. I don't care what the chart looks like. So, in that case, last night we dropped 20 handles because that missile was fired. So, if we start going to war, if they fire more missiles, the S&P futures are going further down. If this cools off, then obviously S&P futures are going to rally. So it's funny how, technicians will justify everything. Right. And, and you can look at levels after the fact and say, okay, well, this is where you got some support. But, when you've got, big headlines like that, it's the headline that's going to move the indexes. It's not the technicals. So, we have been quiet here on this SPY, for like a couple of days here. Now we're getting a little more volatility. I mean, the VIX is, moving up here significantly this morning. Obviously, if you're looking at it, it's over 13 this morning. But this is all just from North Korea. So it all depends on what's going to happen. They fire another missile over there, you're going to see those S&P futures tank. If it cools off, maybe you start to see the buy the dippers come back in here. But, you really got to watch, the macro, landscape right now. Obviously, getting all the headlines is the hurricane, but this nuclear stuff is scary stuff.
I think what's scary about this one in particular is I think this is the first one they flew over Japan. It landed about 730 miles off the coast of Japan. So that's like New York to Indianapolis, if you can picture that distance in your head. That's about how far away off the coast of Japan it landed, which is pretty darn close. So I think that's what spooked the markets.
I wonder what they were aiming for, though. Who knows what they were aiming for?
Well,
I don't think they were aiming at anything.
I think they're pretty good at it, and they can put it wherever they want it. They're kind of showing it, and they were telling people when the thing's launched, they're saying take cover in northern Japan. They're saying over there. I mean, that was scary for a few minutes here, but that's they're just showing you how powerful that they are, and that they aren't scared. And I don't know, there's going to be some repercussions here eventually here, and obviously we don't want to end up in a nuclear war or something like that, but holy cow, there's some stuff to worry about if you want to worry in this market.
There is a lot, but let's talk about stocks that are most directly affected by this. And we mentioned during the pre-market show, the defense stocks. Which one would you like to take a look at first?
Yeah, like you can think of, I think of the big four really when I think of it last night. And I actually was able to pick up some NOC last night. I actually was able to sell it last night too, which is always nice. But NOC is one. You think about Lockheed Martin is one that everybody thinks about. LMT. If you look this morning, it is trading up. It just traded 306, so it's going to trade up. In a terrible tape, these things are going to probably go up today because if they go to war, these are going to benefit directly from it. NOC, General Dynamics, another one, GD, it's getting bid up this morning. Raytheon, RTN is getting bid up a little bit here this morning. And then you can reach a little bit and say Boeing as well. But, the big four, LMT, NOC, General Dynamics, and RTN.
All right, RTN. I just put up a retail ETF, RTH.
That's definitely not RTN.
Now, 181. I mean, I would just look for the all-time highs in these issues. A couple of them had a couple sleepy days here. Let's see how high they got the RTN, or if not the all-time highs, look at the pre-market highs, and that could be a very good gauge. This one got up to 181. That's interesting because the all-time high was 181.05. So let's take a look at LMT as well. That got a boost in the pre-market, 308.48. Let's see how high they got in the pre-market trading, 306.90. It's $2 off that level. So there's going to be some movement in defense stocks, and these things have just been moving up anyways. And here's just another catalyst for the defense sector.
Yeah. And they've been hot, and I think they're hot for a reason. I think they know something is obviously cooking that's not good over there. So even though, they were sleepy here for a little bit, they're going to awaken here this morning, I think. So Frankie saying he bought some RTN last night. Good call, Frankie. And GDX too. I actually was able to pick up some gold last night as well. So there was a lot of trades last night there if you were right on that news. But, there's going to be trades here this morning too, obviously, for people coming in. The only problem is, the stuff's already moved. I mean, gold is now up. We're up significantly from where we were trading, obviously, just right after the report came out last night. Silver, like you were saying, is up. The trade's kind of been made. The big trade, the easy money was made last night. Now it's about, whether or not this is, going to have some follow through, or whether we're just going to see, the market shrug this off like it seems to shrug everything off. And we're going to start to see, the S&P futures come back. So in any regard here, just looking, overall at the market here, it's performing, it's holding up quite well considering that missile was fired towards Japan.
I agree. Under the circumstances, we are 11 points off that low. So, of course, when the big money comes in here at 9:30, we'll see how the stocks react. I am seeing some of these stocks, at least that I'm looking at, are trading down a little bit more than the percentage in the S&Ps. I have the S&P down 0.5%. You have Apple down, trading down 0.75% here. So
higher beta on Apple right now, though.
Yeah.
So you got to always consider the betas, and Apple is going to move more with your Qs. But even Apple has a little bit higher beta right now than, it typically does. So, when I see Qs down 0.68% like they are right now, I think Apple could be down as much as 1%. I think Facebook, it could be down as much as 1%, which it almost is. AMD, I think it'll be down a little bit more. So you got to, consume, and you can't just look at, your current beta, or your historic, you look at your historical beta. You got to kind of, get a feel. And, for the most part, I trade these things so much that I've got a pretty good feel for how volatile they're going to be. But, like a stock like Coca-Cola might go down, but it's not going to go down as much as the S&P because it's more conservative stock. Sometimes they actually even rally because they're defensive in themselves, as people still drink Coke, especially around nuclear war, and people maybe drink a lot of Coke, but they do whatever they want when they have a nuclear war. But, that's something to consider is your betas when you're trading these stocks, against the indexes. I know Kramer was trading last night. He says, I wouldn't sell any stock down, in more than 0.75%, considering where Asia, traded. And, that's just statistical arbitrage is all that is. And I do a lot of that stuff. But you got to consider your betas. So when you're doing this, you can't just say, okay, well, market's down 0.5%. That means AMD is going to go down 0.5%. Absolutely not. AMD's got a beta of at least 3 to 1 on the market right now. So when the market's down 0.5%, you're going to see AMD down 1.5%, which it's trading down this morning.
Dennis, you got to write all these down, all these sophisticated arbitrage.
They're all kind of in my head, but
no, you got to start writing them down. So when we get into some of the full swing of lessons here, we can get people that have these formulas memorized.
I mean, the quants, that's what quantitative trading, they're going to do a lot of this stuff too. So they've got them built in their algorithms and stuff. But, there's still opportunities for, if you're not a quant or if you're not, even an algorithmic trader, there's lots of opportunities for manual traders in this market. Don't kid yourself. You don't have to be trading automated to make money in this market. And I think we have a lot of great traders in our chat who make money very consistently that aren't automated.
Yeah.
Jumping over here to the other news from this morning. This was the big news last night before the missile was fired. Finish line.
Oh.
Holy cow. They came out with preliminary numbers like they warned. It's just an absolute mess here this morning. It's your loser of the day. More pain for the shoe store stocks. Spencer, give us the details. What did FINL say that has it down 29% more this morning?
Well, they came out yesterday at around 4:30. 4:30 is when shares were halted. 3 minutes later, they came out with some preliminary earnings, like guidance, like you said. So their EPS estimate, the estimate for Q2 EPS was 38 cents. What they came out yesterday, they said it would actually be closer to 8 to 12 cents compared to 38 cents. Sales of 469 million versus 477 million estimate. They also see the Q3 comps down 3 to 5%. Basically slashing every kind of guidance, fiscal year EPS, fiscal year comps, the whole thing. So
it's just an absolute disaster. It's trading down at 739. This is getting close to the pre-market lows, is it not, Joel?
717 is your pre-market low. The last time we traded under $7 was during the financial crisis in July of 2009.
Wow.
680 was the low. So I can't really say for sure whether the low is in, but I think at least see some buyers at that pre-market low, 717 down to 680. That was the low, as I said, in July 2009. Since you hit that low, we haven't been able to get over 760. So there's your early range, 717 to 760.
And if you're looking at sympathy plays here, I mean, they've already all been killed. So you think, how much worse can it get for like a Foot Locker here? Because it already got slaughtered on its own earnings, but it's down another 2.5% anyways on this. So obviously Foot Locker destroyed after its earnings report, had tried to be bouncing back the last few days while it's getting hit pretty good here again this morning. Nike's the same story. Nike's trading down over $1. So just when you think, okay, well, maybe there's going to be some relief here in these, shoe stores, and maybe they're going to start to show some life, you get another bad report from another shoe store right out of the blue, and they're hitting them all here again. So Nike's down. If you look, Under Armour's trading down. UA's down 1.5% as well. If the XRT was trading down last night too, I mean, the S&P futures are going to whack that as well. But you wonder if this doesn't spill into other retail again. I mean, it's not like it's a huge player in the industry, but it's a huge player in the shoe market. And when you see this, you got to think that a lot of the shoe stores and your shoe makers are going to suffer. And that's what we're seeing in the pre-market.
Look at the setup here, perhaps in a Foot Locker. You had a little 4-point rally off the lows. Let's call it a little over that, 4.5, 5 points. So figure your 50% retracement right at 2.5 points. That brings you in to the $34 level. We haven't hit that yet in the pre-market trading, but that's the way I would look at these setups. You had the rebound, couldn't take out the high from the earnings day. You actually put a triple top in there right around 36. So keep an eye if you're looking at these either to cover short or perhaps initiate a long. If thinking the low of the move 31.56 is in, keep an eye on your 50% retracement.
Yeah, so a mess there too. Buckingham putting a $5 price target downgrade in the stock here this morning. Also getting downgrade FBR. So some analysts chasing price on these stocks again here this morning. Macy's, just in our chat, John Dodson was talking about it. Yes, Macy's is getting hit on this too. It's already trading down 1.2%. I mean, the market's hitting it as well. But, we've had a pretty good run up here in the last week in Macy's. It got down to 1935, and then Kramer gave it some love, and it's been climbing back ever since. Well, it's getting hit here a little bit this morning, probably because all retail stocks are getting hit. Kohl's is trading down. I mean, it looks like it's going to be an ugly morning for retail. And then Best Buy chooses to report fantastic numbers on the worst possible day. They report here this morning after we got a missile fired in North Korea, after a disaster finish line, and they came out and they actually blew the numbers away. Spencer, give us the details for BBY. It's giving it all back, though.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I read it. Q2 EPS 69 cents versus 63-cent estimate. Sales of 8.94 versus $8.66 billion. So beat on both for the quarter, the sales and the EPS. We also see their Q3 EPS coming in higher than the estimate. 65 cents was the estimate for Q3. They actually are coming in at 75 to 80 cents, and their sales estimate is $9.3 to $9.4 billion. The estimate was $9 billion even. So they beat all around. Everywhere.
All around. This was a good report. It doesn't matter. It's just in a bad tape now, and they don't want to own any retailers today. This stock, believe it or not, Best Buy traded up on this numbers to $67.99 in the pre-market. This went up $5.50. Come on, you got to think, and I just want to, if you learn anything on this show, look at the tape you're in. If you've got to get a feel for, what's going on. And in this kind of tape, when they fired a missile in North Korea, you're going to buy a stock up 10%, a retail stock? Probably not going to hold. Wish I would have been awake to sell it. I actually got up early this morning. I went back to sleep around 5 o'clock. So I was trading the 4 a.m. open, and I slept for a couple hours and slept through the Best Buy numbers. But I would have had my shorting shoes on up there at that $67.99 price. I tell you that. I'd have been shorting it probably a little bit sooner than that. Joel, this is now trading in the red at 61.69. Thoughts on BBY?
I'm going to give it down to 61 here. And the reason I say that is because you had 4 lows. The lowest of those lows is 60.96. So you did have buyers there the last 3 or 4 days ahead of the report, and you got a pop right near all-time highs. So I'm going to use that 61 level. That's 79 cents from where we're trading. I think below 61, then you get in a little bit more of an area down to 59.5. But so far, good report, was rewarded. Now, like you said, it's just working against the tape. But you know what? I mean, does this get you thinking about any of these other retailers, Dennis? Because you and I were one that called this stock for dead here in 2012, 2013.
Oh, yeah, we have this one dead wrong.
Yeah, almost got down to single digits. I mean, Amazon. I mean, how did they do this? You know what I would do if I was like,
they beat Amazon.
They beat Amazon.
They were the first company that people were saying this is, the direct attack, Amazon. I was on Best Buy because they were selling, main thing, they're selling electronics. They were selling a lot of electronics. I mean, that's why Best Buy got down. If you look at the tape to, $11 or wherever it got to, if you look back in 2012, because Amazon was supposedly going to put them out of business. Me and you were believing it too. We were like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not buying it down here because Amazon's eating their lunch. You know what? They figured it out.
What did they do?
Don't they have?
What did they do? These other retailers got to figure it out too. What did Best Buy do to stop Amazon?
I thought they had a very aggressive price matching strategy.
They do. They have the price matching, which is the one thing they have to do. But the second thing I think it is just when you're buying electronics, you want to go check them out and see what this does, and it's cool. And we used to say, okay, well, Best Buy was the showroom for Amazon, but then they did the price matching, and it's like, well, I can buy it right now, or I can go home and get the same price on Amazon and get it in 3 days. Why would I not buy it right now?
All right. Well, what about this? What about using the stores as like showrooms for like high-end suppliers and high-end products? And I think that's what they've done. Is you can get someone like Sony or Samsung or Microsoft or AT&T or any tech provider to pay for an aggressive showroom display in your store.
Do they do that?
Yes.
They pay Best Buy for that? Do we know that?
Well, it's like you can't. It's not like everyone, but like if you want like a big display, then yeah, you can pay for that. You can set up like a branded shop within a store, and they do that.
Yeah. I don't know. Whatever they've done it right. So props to Best Buy because they figured it out. Stock was making all-time highs. I mean, today it's obviously down a little bit on a great report just because we're in a bad tape. But holy cow, they figured it out.
They've lifted their online sales here double digits. On Tuesday, said this was last Tuesday, online sales grew 24% during the second quarter, marking the second straight quarter of nearly 24% growth. So they're fighting them in the stores and also online here. Not being rewarded for that good report today, and we'll see what happens at 61 even, as I mentioned, 5-day low, 60.96.
Jumping over here just to a few other stocks that were on my list, and it's the earnings parade here. And we've got our buddy Gordo is downgrading JA Solar here this morning to a sell. That's Axiom Capital. And stock is trading down 3% here in the pre-market. I was wondering if we were going to be able to get Gordo on. I don't know, Spencer, if you had a chance to reach out to him or not. He's always great when he's on the show, though.
Nothing yet.
Very well spoken and articulate, gives us a really good look at things. Traded down trading at 619. We'll have to get the details of that report. I'm sure you can read about that Zinga later on. $6, Dennis. What's going to happen at $6? Are you a buyer at $6? Maybe the cover is short.
What's Gordo's price target? He's good on these.
Do we have a price target on that?
Look, I don't think I saw a price target.
I thought I saw it this morning, but I didn't write it down. If somebody's got that, I didn't write it down either, but I thought I saw it.
I haven't seen one. Let me look again, but
Go take a hunting there because he's good with these prices. I thought I saw $5, but I don't know if somebody else has it there.
I just see here. I'll check. I just see hold to sell, but I'll check another source. Hold on.
Multiple lows at the $6 area. Now, whether or not that's going to hold today, we'll have to see. But under 6, only 38 cents away, and it will be a big, big breakdown if we take out that $6 level.
Also, ratings land. Juno catches a couple of upgrades here this morning. We know it got the sympathy move, the big sympathy move with the kite purchased by Gilead there yesterday. Well, we got two analysts jumping on the bandwagon. Wedbush upgrades the stock and Raymond James upgrades the stock. If you're disappointed in the 1% rise, well, you already got your big move. I mean, it had the big move in sympathy yesterday. I thought it might give a little bit of it back. It did not. And it's held on here this morning as well. So Juno looking good. I'm kicking myself because I was looking at this in the mid-20s and thinking about buying it just because, it's one of those smaller growth biotech companies. And I was like, it looked nice in my portfolio. It was significantly off the all-time highs, which were back over $69 back in 2015 when the biotech bubble burst. Never bought it though, and I'd be up 10 points right now if I would have pulled the trigger. So at this point, I didn't. Anyways, 36.48 or 36.78 is worth trading out here this morning. Up another 40 cents on a couple upgrades.
Yeah, let's see what happens at yesterday's high. Yesterday's high was 37.5. Backed off. It had if you were shorting this on the open, you certainly took some heat, but really 37.5 just before or just after that area. We'll see if it has the potential to put a double bottom in here. You can see that 37.5 high from yesterday. That's your level you need to look at in Juno Therapeutics.
And then the other one I have on my list, and wow, look at this price target, AVXS. So we're looking at Nomura putting a reduce on this. So they're initiating at reduce. This stock, so Alpha Victor X-Ray Simon, is trading. It's trading and close at $96.98. They put a $52 price target on this thing. 52. So that's like half. They're saying it's going to get cut in half. AVXS is trading down 3% on that, but man, that's a bold call.
Yeah, very bold. I wonder if it's a typo, but it's down.
I wondered that too when I saw 52. I was like, is that right? I'm like, that thing could fall $5 then if that's right, because Nomura's got some pretty good pull. So they're saying it's going to fall to 52. So people are going to take note.
I would like to look at the history of this analyst and see where they've been on it before. If they got it on the way up, or they're just hopping on this now. 95 was good support. You've taken that out. So if you get a bounce in 95, that would be a gap filling it. Actually, you had 3 lows just above it at the 95, actually 4 lows. So get back into the 95 handle. You find some sellers on the downside. Well, ahead of that target price, you have 91.73. That was your August 24th low. And actually, we're trading right in the vicinity of your 5-day low at 93.41. But there's much volume in this thing? Let's see how this thing trades.
No, it doesn't trade much. It only traded 1,000 shares here this morning. But when you see that price target, it makes me think 93.75 seems not down that much. Really. Down
no, not at all.
Put a $52 price target on it, I would automatically think it's going to fall at least a few bucks.
Get in there, Dennis. I mean, you got, risk 20 on the upside, and
I'm not jumping in here. I'd say a few bucks. It's not where it's like, whoa, this isn't down. And I was down 3% on a downgrade, and often, see a 1 or 2% move. It's a little bit more because it's fallen. I'd say it could fall $3. Well, it is down $3. So it's not something I think there's, a lot of meat on the bone there, but it could fall further. So I don't think I'm coming here and buying it at 93.75 when Nomura puts a $52 price target on it. And I don't think a lot of other people are either.
All right. John Dotson, he's licking his chops here for Alta. And I was looking for a red dog reversal yesterday in it, and it did not get it. It took out that low from the low of the move. 207 you hit yesterday. So a close above that prior day's low would have been something to lean on. John Dotson's looking for 200 here, but man, I think maybe I try and buy this thing and when it actually shows some kind of strength. But
show some life.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of times, and it is the call. A lot of times they take out the big psychological level and then get back above it. That's what you want to kind of see happen, as opposed to just kind of saying, okay, this is the bottom of 205. I'm buying it here. I always think when they go to 207, 205, they're probably the 200 magnet just starts to kick in. So when I see a stock go from 240 down to 220 to 205, makes me think, or to 207, makes me think 200 is going to come. So why buy to 205? I feel like I'm buying it 5 points too high because I feel like they're going to test the 200. And often they'll trade 197, 198, shake out everybody who is, leaning on 200 as a stop, and then sometimes get a close back above it. And that's when it gets interesting. And that's when it can get the bounce. Look at Chipotle. That's exactly
I was just going to bring that up.
CMG gets down to, my $300 price target. I set a phone at 300, trades down to 296, shakes everybody else leaning on 300, and then gets a little close above it. And now you know what? It shows a little bit of life. So yeah, I have a little bit. It's right at the top of the trend line, but it's up 12 points from that 300 area. So I like them when they take out the big number and then get back up over it. That's when I get interested.
All right, let's see how Alto's doing here in the pre-market. It is kind of quiet. Actually, looks like we got some high. Oh, I'm looking at CMG. Let's see where Alto's trading. Yesterday's low was 207. We got 205.18. That's your pre-market low, and not much above that. Psychological $200 level. Jumping
over here to some imbalances because we're just getting them here right off. Then see what's hot and what's not. What is not? Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of sell imbalances. You're going to see them. Alibaba, 111,000 to sell. Whatever institution was doing all that buying for about 2 or 3 weeks straight is now doing some selling because Alibaba's had 2 or 3 days in a row where we've had sell imbalances. Not surprising that some of the China stocks get hit more. I think they're more impacted even from the North Korea stuff. So, if you think about that, you can look at some of your major China plays like BIDU, BABA. You can think, even like the littler ones like Momo, JD. Those are all down 1.5% to 2.5%, a little bit more in the overall market, simply because they're the major. They're more volatile. Their betas are higher, but they're also over there in China too, which is directly impacted. Not that we're not directly impacted, but it's right over there. So I'm not surprised it's getting hit. Continuing on with the imbalance look here, Bank of America, 107,000 to sell. You've seen some sell imbalances in all the banks here this morning. European banks got beats on this as well. I like to always look at my Snap imbalance because it's always interesting. Only 10,000 to sell, so it's pretty small here this morning. Barrick Gold, 112,000 to buy. That's ABX. Not surprising because gold was trading up significantly here this morning. General Electric, 41,000 to sell. You know what? They're pretty small yet. Institutions are holding their cards close to their vest.
Larry's mentioned Safe Bulkers, SB. On August 21st, Maxim started with a buy rating and a $5 price target. And Dennis, we were talking about dry ships, and here could be a sympathy move with it. That stock's moved up nicely. What do you make of the fact that dry ships is not getting down to that what is that tender price of $275? It's just holding here ahead of it. You think it?
I'm not surprised because that was the difference is they actually have that price underneath it there that's supporting it right now. So, and it sounds like they're not doing any of their shenanigans where they're obviously issuing more stock here at least anytime soon. So I'm not surprised this is holding on, and it does set up to be interesting here. I mean, look at all the lows from you can go back to the last 7 or 8 trading days. I mean, usually in 7 or 8 days, dry ships falls 90%. Dry ships is actually flat in the last 7 or 8 days. That's good days for dry ships. I don't know if I could jump in here and buy it just because it's been such a terrible stock. But I'm interested here. You know what? I'm actually interested in DRYS around $3. I think if it got down below 275, you stop yourself out. But this is one that could go to $4, $5, $6 again, if it decided to take off. And I think, risk reward here, as long as you get out, and make sure you do not get stuck with this dog because it is still a dog. If you're buying this at 305 or 306 here this morning, if it takes out 275, I'm getting out. I'm eating my, 10% loss or whatever on it. But, risk reward, you could set up a 3-to-1 on this easy.
All right, 8:35, Spencer. Are we going to take a break or are we going to? I'm sure Nick has a.
Let's just bring Nick on the fly. Give me a second.
Okay, Nick Shaheen. He is the creator or the editor of Create Income with Option Spreads. He joins us every Tuesday at 8:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. How are you doing?
Doing great. I was looking over some pretty scary headlines overnight, but it looks like we're waking up to a little better reaction than last night.
Are you building yourself some type of bunker or something, if you do go full nuclear war here? Because, you've made a lot of, these profits, selling all these, all your options over the years. It would really suck to have a nuclear war ruin your party.
Yeah, right. Isn't that no bunker here. We don't have basements in California.
And you're on the wrong side too on California. Over in Detroit, it's the missiles got to go a little farther to get us.
I do have friends there.
Anyways, all kidding aside here, it's kind of scary.
It sure is. I mean, this is and the statements from the White House this morning, although they sound calculated, but all options on the table make me worry what that really means. Are we going to wake up to a headline that says we struck? I'm not sure. And by the way, I mean like the world. It's not like just us. It's for once, it's the other side is actually threatening a whole bunch of good people that are banded together, and they're much stronger than the one unit that's threatening everybody else.
So what do you do?
So
go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask the exact question. What do you do?
You trade the ranges until they break apart. I mean, the black swan, even though this one is kind of like peeking its head, so we have a heads up on it, as opposed to it coming out of nowhere like the 08 debacle, the financial debacle. So the threat to stocks, whether physical or not, you can't plan for the black swan by saying, okay, I won't trade until it happens, because it's by definition, you don't know what's going to happen. So you have to trade, and hopefully you set enough risk in good places where even in the worst case scenario or a really bad scenario, you're going to be coming out of it at the other end. So if you own stock, then you protect a little bit. Plenty of ways to do that. If you sell puts, then you protect a little bit. There are also ways to do that. Or you set credit spreads that are limited in size. So when you go to bed at night, you know that you're going to lose X if it goes to 0 or Y if it goes to 1,000,000. So there are ways to trade in a potentially bad headline situation, but you can't just sit it out. Well, you could just sit it out and put your money somewhere else, but the risk is always there. I mean, I can't plan for black swan.
What's your bearish point on the downside here? For me, last week's low at 1575, took out, that's the bottom of the trading range for me. So I don't think I can, I'm looking at another 15 handles down here before I could get, real bearish and work on the $2,400 level. What's your line in the sand here where you would say, okay, no longer a trading range here. We took out the bottom of the trading range and we're going down.
Well, I don't know if I have a bottom of a range, but I do have a set of numbers that I share every morning, and they kind of look like this. Last night's dip was better to the bull side than just a few days ago when we dipped even lower than 22s or whatever we did last night. Actually, we've had 2 lower dips just recently. So last night, the fact that it only stopped where it did and that we're so much better this morning, and it's encouraging. We've set higher lows for a while, and so I have a trend I can trade. So if I lose the 2422 area, then I would look at holding the 2400. And this is a zone where we had kind of like fast sticks upside. So are they weak hands, or have they consolidated enough above them, the fact that so they're no longer weak hands? So I do have levels to trade. So it's not like a straight shot down to 2300. There are levels, and last night's action was encouraging, even though we dropped so many points quickly, but we recovered quickly, and we didn't go as low as just a few days ago.
Do you follow the currencies at all?
Just from the standpoint that the dollar is falling, gold is rallying.
Okay.
I don't trade them. I am puzzled as to why our currency is weak when we're the ones tightening. So there are other things at play that are above my pay grade and above a lot of people's pay grade, even though they all want to sound experts. So I'm listening. What do you got?
We're just getting some questions here on the Japanese yen. And we have some traders with positions on it here. Let me see if I can bring up the chart here for the Japanese yen. I think
it's rallying, I can tell you that. And usually it's part of my three amigos that hurt the stock. When yen, bonds, and gold rally together in spikes, that means something else is going on in the equities. And I look at them as the new VIX. Because VIX is kind of broken these days, kind of, I say, because it sporadically doesn't work. So as an indicator of actual fear. So those three together, I look at which yen included, if it's rallying, it tends to put some downside pressure on markets. I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but those happen at the same time.
I'm just looking at the Japanese yen futures chart basis September here, and you cleared. It looks like you had a lot of resistance here at 92 cents, and you cleared that. So haven't been up in this area for quite some time, but holding 92 cents. It looks like you got a little breakout here in the yen.
This is a middle spot for over 2 years. If you pull up a weekly for 2 years, it's coming back from a big dip.
Ooh, look at that. Yep. And also maybe figure a retracement here from when it got over a buck here, or up over 1.010. That was the high, down to the low, and still working on a 50% retracement. You can see 94 cents was a big level. This was going back last year. This is basis a weekly chart. Let's just go to, the big stock here, the big dog, Apple. The market's pulled off. Apple is hung in there. Any comments, or could you share some levels in Apple? Just $2 off the all-time high, 162.51.
Right. I wouldn't short Apple these days. Yesterday it was a little frisky and the buying was pretty strong and the volume was higher than normal at the close. I don't know if that was coincidental with the headline just after market or not, but I definitely have no reason to short it. Technically, it's frisky. If it sets a new high, it can reach. It's not overextended from valuation perspective, PE, etc. So this is kind of the conundrum, right? We are at all-time high markets, but none of the majors are really that inflated, bloated, whatever you want to call it. So I would go long on dips if they ever come. So there is downside pressure in the open interest, but I don't want to trade that downside pressure. I don't want to buy puts in it. I don't want to sell calls in it. I definitely don't want to sell calls in it. So I if I wanted to short something, I would pick something other than Apple.
What about Amazon?
Amazon would be a proxy.
Kind of hanging here at 950.
Right, but it is technically vulnerable. I did take a small credit put spread, and yesterday I fell asleep. I could have booked some profits in it before the dip. If I short it, I'm shorting the markets. I think Amazon all by itself is not going to break apart. But if market's correct, this one runs fast. So if you're long, definitely, that's one to keep an eye on. And on dips, I would go long it. I'm excited that maybe I get to use that beautiful Whole Foods that's around my house. We have a really nice Whole Foods here, but their prices are outrageous, and I don't see the quality they tout. A couple times I've been there, I bought some fruits and it had fuzz on it at the bottom. So I was, yeah, I know. I wasn't that impressed. I was like, I thought you guys were supposed to be like the supreme supplier of great stuff. But maybe now with lower prices, I'd probably step into it a couple of times a month.
Well, Nick, I don't know if you saw, but yesterday was Amazon seriously cut prices at Whole Foods.
I heard they were going to do that immediately after they announced they were going to close the deal on Monday. That was last week. So I was like, yeah, cool. I'll go check it out and see what actually they're up. If it's the price of quinoa, that's not going to affect me much. But if it's the price of stuff I actually buy, then maybe.
From the chat, Frankie23 is holding a September put. 2,400 put, expires second week in September, mainly for SPAC. Thoughts on selling now versus holding? And first comment I'm going to make is how many do you have? If you have one and you're kind of all in or all out, if you have 2 or 5 or 10, nothing wrong with booking profits and see what happens. But Nick, what's your assessment here going out 2 weeks on S&P?
I'm going to assume he shorted the market just before this dip. I'm one to book profits often. 2016, on taught me to leave money on the table. Otherwise, you may not have any left. So if I had profits, I'd book and I could re-engage cheaper somewhere else if I still want to maintain my position, whatever it is. If I'm short something, if I'm long something, I can book and replace with the
that's the way
money in hand.
Yeah, but that's the way the market's been, and that's been the history. And you're thinking about that, in this occasion, where, I mean, are you going to see the 2440s again? Are you going to be able to, rebook? Is this, are the fundamentals finally, catching up with the market here?
Yesterday we were looking at my ranges were, I had 40s in them and 50s. And I said, if we lose the 33s, we could look at 22s. And if I checked this morning, I bet you it was the 21 overnight low. So nothing happened new. The range is the range. You've seen me publish the ranges for the last 4 or 5 days, if not a week or two. They've been the same. If we lose 33, we were looking at 33 as a pivot point, and then we passed it. So then we look at it as support. And I said, if we lose it, we should look at the 20. Hello?
We're here.
Okay. Skype went weird on me. So, and we look at the 22, if that happens. And then if that is lost, then there is a whole cluster around the 2400. Then a whole set of ranges below that. So you trade the range at hand and you make the decision accordingly. So if I was lucky enough to short overnight, I definitely book it and see what happens. And I can reopen it somewhere. That's me personally. Other people like to leave their winners run. So in this case, unless we have a new headline, this headline has worked itself. Unless we retaliate, this headline has worked itself overnight.
Nick, let's talk the financials here for a minute. They got hit overnight here on obviously the missile crisis, or if you call it a crisis, the missile being fired here over in North Korea. Deutsche Bank down. A lot of your European financials trading down. Our financials are weak here as well. What are your thoughts here? Let's go XLF and just talk, the financials here over in the U.S. What are your thoughts here as you look at this chart?
XLF is one of those conundrums. The financials, again, if you look at them, they're so cheap from a fundamental perspective. Their valuations are totally reasonable. Some of them are selling a book and PEs that are very reasonable for, if they tell us that they are financially sound, they're passing all kinds of strenuous tests financially, then I should not worry about the banks. Technically, sure, they can trade down till, the XLF could probably approach 24 again. But I think every serious dip is a viable opportunity. And if you trade options, there are tons of ways of making that work. I could sell puts, put spreads, buy call spreads, or both if I'm really bullish for the bounce. So if market's correct, then the financials obviously would fall with them. But there's nothing overinflated that one gets excited about shorting. In other words, if you really want to short markets, there are stuff that's bloated still. I don't want to pick on one stock, but there are, the one that keeps coming to mind, CMG. Everybody thinks that it's fallen so far.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, the PE is still outrageous. And people say, well, you're not comparing apples to apples when I list all other restaurants that it is. It's like, what do you mean? What kind of an apple is it? It's a fast food restaurant.
They got the growth. Oh, no, they don't.
They don't have, don't make me cuss on, they don't have diddly, and they just have the perception of them being food with conscience, or whatever the heck their tagline was. Well, it's a cool store, but it's just a store. The In-N-Out burger down the street from me has a line out the door. They actually lock the door so they can't get anybody in because they can't serve anybody anymore on Friday. So it doesn't matter what kind of restaurant it is. You have to compare it financially to other restaurants. I'm just picking that as an example. And so
we picked on CMG a lot on this show. So we won't yell at you for picking on CMG.
Okay. So there are easier shorts than financials. You want to pick the limping gazelle out there. So
give me one. Give me one of those easier shorts.
I just said one.
Give me another one.
All the tech guys, they're, everybody believes that tech is going to the moon. NVIDIA is up there. Now, don't send the hate mail. I go long NVIDIA whenever I can. You saw what happened to Alta. There are a lot of, I'm not looking to short anything. So I've been concentrating on trying to catch falling knives that are worthy.
Talk about Alta. Talk about Alta. We'll let you go. John Dotson's eyeing the $200 level. I mean, this thing, you don't know whether it's going to pull like a Teva and just keep on going. I thought you did a write-up. Tell us what your write-up or your thoughts on Alta Beauty.
Yeah, I forgot what the write-up was. No, I'm just kidding. I thought it would hold the 230 level, but I did say that there's an open gap that I don't know if he was going to fill it or not. So Alta is one of those weird situations where, it was, Jim Cramer fave, but now he is acknowledging the fact that there is weakness in makeup. So I can tell you one thing. I went into Ulta months ago and the place was packed and they had some sort of a giveaway and it was gone. Recently, I went again. There was nobody in the store and they had some sort of a giveaway and they had tons of it left. That's all I'm going to say about it. So I don't know what's going on. I don't buy makeup, but I don't know if it's industry wide. I don't know if it's Ulta specific, but it's corrected a lot. But it's still not very cheap. So can it go further? Sure, it can, but it's down 34% from the highs. So at some point, it would be a good buy long, but this would be a stock that would probably fall also fast because it's a momentum stock. Priceline, all these guys, Amazon, you guys we talked about earlier, all these are momentum stocks. If I wanted to short the markets, I would find one of these, a CRM, all of these guys that have high PEs, they're momentum stocks. If things go wrong in the market, they run faster. Even if you just want to short like the small caps, because they too run faster than the other indices. But this is all the same trade, shorting markets. And yes, we are at all-time highs, but I think we will need to reason to back off of that all-time high, a reason that is not in the news yet.
We've been on the line with Nick Shaheen. He is the editor of the Create Income with Option Spreads, and we tried to get him off his bullish horse, and he is staying firm. So
wait, what?
No. I mean, come on. You're saying the rate. I mean, you're taking all the news. You're looking at the ranges, and you're going to say you're going to trend these ranges until the range is right. So I'm not. I mean, you're just doing what has made you money the last couple of years, and if you need to adjust your style based on your analysis, you will, Nick. But no, I'm giving you credit on that. I'm not picking on you, but I'll pick on you next week. Okay.
All right, I'll be here.
All right, real quick, Hain here, Hain, Wave Trader, asked about it. Must have had a reporter because that wouldn't move off an upgrade on that. Let me look at the pre-market chart. Popped
Get us
up.
the news there first, Spencer.
Yeah, you got the news on Hain.
Yeah, Hain had earnings, right? Yes, they did. I thought I saw that this morning. Q4 EPS 43 cents is a 3-cent beat. Sales of $725 versus $719.5 million. So pretty good Q4 they had there. They see their fiscal year EPS coming in line with the estimated fiscal year sales, coming in higher than the estimate. 2.85 billion was the estimate for the fiscal year sales. 2.97 to 3.03 is what they are projecting.
What do you think about
it's a good
this
report?
One? Yeah, it's a very good report.
But
what's the?
I'm going to let you. I was throwing you a softball up the middle here.
To me,
Strike
that
one.
spike up 48.73. The high I think is definitely in here. So I'm just looking at
What was the high?
48.73.
I don't even know what to say anymore. Who's coming in and buying that stock up 20%? People. Okay, look, and I just got done going around on the Best Buy when they're buying it up $5-6. People just are so excited, and they're coming in here and saying that's a great report. I'm going to come in. I wonder if it's the machines too, just screwing up sometimes. But holy cow, you're going to pay up 20% for a stock, and when North Korea's time firing missiles near Japan and stuff. Not for me. I'm not paying up that kind of for a stock. So I don't know. That seems crazy.
I'm just going to throw out the high, throw out the low here. And for some reason, I just can't take my eyes off $44 here. 44 has been a level. We had two highs back in the middle of August, right there at 44. That also posed resistance just above that at 44.31. So to me, stocks up 3.5 or 3.39. To me, holding 44. I mean, if it gets above 44 and holds 44, then I would look at 45 as a target, and then the reach the high of the move at 45.61. But couple opportunities. This stock had to break through 44, and it did it. Now it's doing on an earnings report. I see some downside here if 44 doesn't hold.
Jump over to imbalances again. They got bigger, Joel. Bob, 189,000 to sell. Bank of America now 291,000 to sell. Citigroup 41,000 to sell. The financials are really starting to leak here now. Bank of America down 1.5%. Citi down 1.3%. Goldman Sachs, which went ex-dividend here today, is now trading down over 1%. Morgan Stanley's down over 1%, and JP Morgan's trading down over 1%. So all your big guns, Wells Fargo too, trading down more than the market, more at 1% here right now or more. There's a lot. Ford 119,000 to sell. Visa 42,000 to sell. General Electric is now triple digits as well, 108,000 to sell. CRM, we were just talking about that, 58,000 to sell in CRM. Walmart 56,000 to sell. The only one that's bucking the trend is Square. SQ 227,000 to buy. That buyer is still lurking there in SQ. He's been there for a while and continues to show up every morning with a buy imbalance. I don't know when he's going to stop buying, but every morning Square has a big buy imbalance, it seems like.
And we talk about the imbalances stuff, and Dennis, I mean, they've hit the S&Ps off here, off that imbalance. We were trading up in the 2430 handle, 2432, and then we've sold off 3 or 4 points. Actually, we only got two. Yeah, we got the 3250 before that, and we lost a few points. For Frankie, too, I know you only got one put there, and you're looking at it. I think keep an eye on that pre-market low. I know that, we're trading down 15 handles here. If we take out that pre-market low, maybe I would try and hold out for 1575. That was last week's low. We did some ratings. Anything else in ratings land we didn't pick up on?
No, there wasn't much here this morning, so we've got those pretty much covered. Again, JSO to the sell at Axiom Capital. I'll give you an update on the price, though. It is trading down at 616 right now, down 3.5%. And the Juno double upgrade and AVXS, which that $52 price target is now trading at 93.10. So it continues to leak here this morning. So not a lot of ratings here. There's always other stocks to talk about.
Well, I wanted to bring up just to
bring it up.
Alert our listeners that today is the second and final lockup expiration in Snapchat.
Nice.
So you could see some selling pressure.
Well, you are this morning. It's down 1.5%. The Snap. I mean, let's look at this thing. This thing hated, and was on a clean downtrend there until it broke it, and now it's actually showing a little bit of life. I just think it got overdone. It's leaking here this morning, but this is a stock that's got a nice little uptrend. This is a stock on a pullback here that is interesting. Still, I don't like the stock long term. We know that. But in short term here, we've been saying, it's showing life. So you can't argue with the tape. It's showing some life here right now. I still think there's room up to 16 here. And you know what? I'm a short-term buyer of pullbacks on Snap, but not long-term.
It's really trying to make a home in the 15 handle, made a new high for the rebound at 1526 yesterday and closed at 1519. And then you also had a couple highs right at 24 and 25 on July 18th and July 19th. So big area trying to find a home in the $15 handle just because there's a lockup doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to be selling on the open here. So for continued strength and Snap here, got to get those closes above those highs at the 1526 area. Any other stocks I'm in the chat here that we missed? We talked our CMG. I think that's about it. Spencer, you want to wrap up today's show and let us know what's on the docket for tomorrow?
Sure. On the docket for tomorrow's show, we're joined by maybe our most lively guest that we have on the show. Kenny Glick will join us.
All right.
Hit the Bid Radio and hitthebid.com is his site there. You should check him out. He's a true character, so we know that segment at the very least will be fun and maybe some strong language, but
he's pretty good.
He's
I
pretty good.
tell him not to swear.
He's
when
pretty
he comes
good.
on
Okay. He won't swear, but he will be fun because he's always fun. So Kenny Glick will be on the show tomorrow at 8:35. As far as our show today, you can catch the PreMarket Prep podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Just search for Benzinga or PreMarket on any of those sites. You can also listen to the show as it aired live on youtube.com/Benzinga TV. That's our YouTube channel. That's where the show airs, as well as on PreMarketPrep.com. So you can just rewatch the show on YouTube there. That's it for our show today. So have a good rest of your day, folks. Good luck out there. We'll be back with you on Wednesday.